Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Dear student teachers, I am Rashid Salim with lecture number 12 of Functional English 1. Lecture number 12 is about retelling and summarizing stories. In the previous lecture, you learnt about the structure and content of stories, content of narrative texts. So this lecture number 12 is actually connected to it. Let's look at the contents of lecture 11 first. In lecture 11, we learnt how to identify a personal narrative, how to analyze some personal narratives, and how to write your own personal narrative. Personal narrative is kind of your life story, one even taken from your own life. So now we will learn how to summarize when you listen to a narrative. So the objectives of lecture number 12 are that after listening to this lecture, after viewing this lecture, you will be able to summarize a story. You will be able to determine important ideas and information contained in this story. And you will be able to narrate events in a sequence. And finally, you will be able to retell a story in your own words. In fact, the important skill in this lecture is to summarize a story. Rest of the skills, determining important ideas, narrating events, and retelling a story in your own words, are sub-skills of summarizing. So basically or essentially, we will learn how to summarize a story, and of course along with it we will also learn some other sub-skills that are involved in it. Let me first begin with why do we summarize? I think very often you are asked a question like you visited someone, you visited a different country, for example, you came back and someone asked you, how was your experience? Now maybe you spent 10 days in China, and in those 10 days there were lots of events that happened to you. So if someone asks you, how was your trip to China? What would you do? Would you narrate or retell each and every detail that happened to you? No, you would simply tell the summary, or you would tell the highlights of your trips. So if someone asks you, how was a match after you have attended a cricket match or a football match, probably you are expected to give the highlights of the match. Or if you spent a busy day and when you get home and someone asks you, how was your day? How did you spend your day today? Again, you are supposed to give only the highlights of the day in just few sentences. So summarizing is really an important skill in our life, and often we have to summarize the contents of the past events. Now, but as a student, why do we need to summarize? First of all, we need to summarize to give a gist of the story. Gist is the main ideas, key points of the story. And we also summarize to understand a story. Yeah, it is interesting. Unless we are asked to summarize it, we don't really know whether we understand it or not. So it is used to check comprehension as well by the teachers. You know, sometimes when you read a story in the class and teacher asks you to retell the story in your own words, probably his or her purpose is to find out whether you have understood the story or not. So summarizing is an important skill, and remember, in this lecture we will only learn how to summarize a story, how to summarize a narrative text. Summarizing non-fiction, summarizing expository or descriptive essays or texts requires a different kind of skills, and hopefully we will do that in some other lecture. But in today's lecture, we will just be focusing on summarizing stories or narrative texts. Now, what is the art of summarizing? You are going to listen to this video, and you are going to learn from a cop, yes, from a policeman, how to summarize books and movies in just few sentences. So let's watch this video and pay attention to what the writer says, what the cop says here.
How you doing? My name is Gus. I'm a cop in this city. You know, summarizing is getting to the point fast. My wife has to do it for her English class. My son has to do it for his history class. And me as a cop, I hear people's stories all day long and then turn them into reports that are short and sweet, you know, summaries. Now, how did I get so good at it? I practice. I practice by summarizing stuff I know, like movies and books. Now, take that movie, The Titanic. Now, that was a 3-hour ordeal, but I nailed it in 2 sentences. Boy and girl meet on a big ship that hits an iceberg and sinks. Boy dies, girl lives to tell the story. Now see, when I want to summarize something, I just boil it down to the bare bones. Here's another one for you. I just read Cinderella to my little girl. I can summarize that fairy tale in 1 sentence. Poor working girl marries prince in spite of a wicked stepmother. See, no details allowed, just the main idea, that's it. And so to summarize, cop gives a pointer on how to summarize, but now has to get back to his beat. Take care.
Okay, we come back. The art of summarizing. You have just listened to the video, and I hope you have understood some techniques, tips and techniques of summarizing. Now, you were listening to the cop, and can you still remember how did the cop summarize the movie, the famous movie Titanic? He summarized it in 2 sentences. So maybe some of you can still recall it. Okay, my second question about the movie is that how did the cop summarize the famous story Cinderella? And he summarized it in just 1 sentence. Well, if you can't remember, here are the 2 summaries again. He summarized the famous movie Titanic in just 2 sentences, and he said a boy and girl meet on a big ship that hits an iceberg and sinks. The boy dies and the girl lives to tell the story. Interestingly, you see, he has summed up the gist or the main idea of the story in just a boy and girl meet on a big ship that hits an iceberg and sinks. The boy dies and the girl lives to tell the story. So in these two sentences, the cop sums up the gist of the whole story, and the actual movie might have taken 3 hours or so, and he has skipped all the details and just summed it up in 2 sentences, and it is it's not easy, but he has learnt this art by practicing it. Okay, now how would you summarize the story Cinderella in just 1 sentence? And the cop came up with this sentence: a poor working girl marries a prince in spite of her wicked stepmother. And again you would see that lots of details have been skipped here, but that's the whole point. He was simply giving you the highlights or the main idea or the gist of the story and the movie. You might be thinking that it's pretty easy, just writing 1 or 2 sentences is not a big deal. But let me tell you here, there was a famous journalist, I've forgotten his name, but a famous journalist, he used to write in Urdu, and he used to write very short, very lengthy editorials for his newspaper. And once one of his readers complained to him and asked him, "Sir, why do you write such lengthy editorials? Why don't you write short ones?" And he replied, he said, "I don't have time to write the short ones." Yes, writing lengthy editorials actually takes less time, and writing short, comprehensive editorials takes more time, because you have to tell lots of things in just few sentences. So telling lots of things in just few sentences actually needs more time than telling a lot or plenty of things in an hour or so. Okay, but these are really very short summaries. Of course, we don't require such too short summaries. Instead, we will try to capture the main things. And here is the process of summarizing. We won't be using the same process as used by the COP. Instead, we will use a series of steps in order to summarize books and videos and stories. So the first step is to read the story. Don't ever try to summarize a story without reading it. This won't do. Number 2, take notes. So while you are reading the story, you should have a pencil or a highlighter in your hand, and you should underline the sentences, you should jot down the sentences in the margin that you think are relevant, that you think are crucial pieces of information to the story. So what kind of things should you note? Step number 3 is find the main characters. There might be 10, 20 characters in the story, and you don't need to make a list of all those characters. Instead, you can just look at the main characters, and you can easily skip the minor ones. Okay, another thing that you need to note, step number 4, is note down the setting. The setting, as we learned earlier, is an element of story, and it means the time and place of the action. When does the action take place, and where does the action take place? And then point number 4 is to note the story's conflict. And you know what conflict is? Conflict is the main or essential problem of a story. No story is complete without a conflict. So conflict arises when you have a difference of opinion between two persons, or when you want to do something but there is a hurdle in carrying out your wish or desire. There is also a conflict. So conflict can be between you and nature, it could be between you and another person, it could be between you and your country, you and your society, or it could be between two different communities. There could be different kinds of conflicts. Conflict simply means a problem, the problem which is addressed in that story. So you need to note it down in a sentence. Okay, number 6 is to note the main events of the story. Now, of course, this problem usually arises gradually. So you need to note down the main events of the story. The story might have, let's say, 40, 50 events that took place. You don't need to consider them all. You just need to look at the main events of the story, without which the story won't make sense. Okay, then you will, in point number 7, you will note how the conflict is resolved. So how this problem was finally solved, whether it was resolved in the end or not. Sometimes a story ends abruptly and the problem is not resolved at all, but most of the times the stories are resolved either they are resolved with a happy ending, that means you are able to solve the problem, or sometimes it ends in tragedy. But whatever the resolution of the conflict, you should actually note how the story was resolved. Point number 8 is to organize your notes. Okay, for example, you have written down the main characters. Now you can organize them. If you have written main events, and probably you have, you need to order them in a sequence, the way you are going to retell them in the summary. Then number 9 is to write the summary itself. The information that you have gathered through these notes, you are going to use in the summary. And finally, you are going to revise your summary for any punctuation errors, any spelling errors, any grammatical errors, or if you find anything else which needs revising, you can revise it at this stage. So this is the process of summarizing, but you should also focus some journal guidelines. For example, in the summary, you are supposed to tell the story. You are not supposed to memorize the author's words, but develop a personal storytelling voice. That means you don't need to copy-paste the sentences from the original story. Instead, you need to understand the story and then retell it in your own style, in your own way. Number 2, you should use an expressive voice so that you are able to express all the feelings contained in the story. Number 3, you need to pick or determine what is important in the story. Because you see, without determining the importance of ideas and information, there is hardly anything you can do. So for story writing, it is important that you first determine what is important and what is not important. Then you need to tell the details in the right order. As I said earlier, that you need to sequence the events and you shouldn't forget it. Alright, while you are writing the summary, maybe you have to go back to the original text again and again, and you have to reread a lot to check the facts. Otherwise, you might make a mistake somewhere. Okay, and the last thing is, it really takes a lot of practice to get retelling right. So maybe in the beginning you are not very successful, but don't be discouraged. Keep on trying. In the beginning you won't find words. In the beginning you won't be sure whether you are including all the important information or not. Or you won't be sure whether it is the appropriate way to do it or not. But this is how you learn it. You have to keep on practicing, and you will become an expert in it after practicing it for a long period of time. So my advice is that you start with the story and start summarizing it using this process that I gave earlier, and don't try to be perfect. Otherwise it will be difficult for you to write anything. It will add to your writer's block. Okay, so while writing a story, while writing the summary of a story, what are the essential questions that you should ask? So while you are reading a story, these are the few things that you should keep in mind. So basically you are going to ask these 6 questions. You are going to ask who, what, when, where, why, and how. By who I mean you are going to ask a question such as who are the main characters in this story. By what you are going to ask some simple questions like what are the main events in this story? What is the main problem or what is the main conflict of the story? Remember, we are not going to look at all the problems or conflicts. We are just going to look at the main problem or conflict. What is the underlying meaning or theme of the story? That's an important question. And without understanding the real meaning of the story or without understanding the theme of the story, I think it is difficult to summarize. And in the end, you are also going to look at the purpose of the author in writing this story. Remember, the theme or message is different from the purpose. Okay. For example, the theme of a story could be to describe something, but the purpose of description could be various. It could be to entertain, it could be to inform, it could be to amuse, or it could be to provide evidence in the court, etc., etc. There could be various purposes. The purpose could be to convince you, the purpose could be to entertain you, to inform you, to instruct you. So there could be various purposes for that. So once you have underlined or once you have written down the main theme of the story or the main meaning, the underlying meaning of the story, you should also in your notes you should mention it somewhere that what according to you was the purpose of the author in telling this story or in writing this story. Okay, the next 2 questions, when and where, are related to the setting of the event, setting of the actions. So when do the main events take place and where do the main events take place? That you should note down. Why question is also important. Why do the characters act or react in the way they do? This means you also need to note down the motives of various characters. What do they want to do? What is their desire? What is their wish? So why are they acting in a particular way, or why are they reacting in a particular way? And that's like thoroughly understanding the motives behind their actions. Sometimes in some stories it won't be easy, but in majority of the cases it's pretty easy to determine the real motives of why someone is doing something. And finally, the important question is how. How does the conflict resolve, for example? So finally, how the problem is solved. So these are the essential questions that you should keep in mind while reading the story and while taking notes, and they will really help you in writing the summary. Okay, now we are going to have some hands-on practice. So what we are going to do is I am going to make you listen to one of the short stories. It's called Duffy's Jacket, and it is written by Bruce Scoville. And I have also provided the content of this story in the handouts. In fact, I would like you to print out or display that handout in front of you while you listen to the audio of this story, because otherwise probably won't be able to follow the story very much. So you should actually look at the transcript of this story, and you should also listen to the audio. Now, once again, merely reading the story is not enough. You need to listen to it as well, because a lot of things will be explained the way story is told. A lot of expressions will be clear, a lot of feelings will be clear, and you will also improve your listening skills in the process. Okay, so now I'm going to play the audio for Duffy's Jacket, and you should listen to it, and you should also look at the script of this story, which is given in the handouts related to lecture number 12.
Duffy's Jacket by Bruce Coville. If my cousin Duffy had the brains of a turnip, it never would have happened. But as far as I'm concerned, Duffy makes a turnip look bright. My mother disagrees. According to her, Duffy is actually very bright. She claims the reason he's so scatterbrained is that he's too busy being brilliant inside his own head to remember everyday things. Maybe, but hanging around with Duffy means you spend a lot of time saying, "Your glasses, Duffy," or "Your coat, Duffy," or, well, you get the idea. A lot of three-word sentences that start with your, end with Duffy, and have words like book, radio, wallet, or whatever it is he's just put down and left behind, stuck in the middle. Me, I think turnips are brighter. But since Duffy's my cousin, and since my mother and her sister are both single parents, we tend to do a lot of things together. Like camping, which is how we got into the mess I want to tell you about. Personally, I thought camping was a big mistake. But since Mom and Aunt Elise are raising the three of us, me, Duffy, and my little sister Marie, on their own, they're convinced they have to do man stuff with us every once in a while. I think they read some book that said me and Duffy would come out weird if they don't. You can take him camping all you want. It ain't gonna make Duffy normal. Anyway, the fact that our mothers were getting wound up to do something fatherly, combined with the fact that Annalise's boss had a friend who said we could use his cabin, added up to the five of us bouncing along this horrible dirt road late one Friday in October. It was late because we had lost an hour going back to get Duffy's suitcase. I suppose it wasn't actually Duffy's fault. No one remembered to say, "Your suitcase, Duffy," so he couldn't really have been expected to remember it. "Oh, Elise," cried my mother as we got deeper into the woods, "aren't the leaves beautiful?" That's why it doesn't make sense for them to try to do man stuff with us. If it had been our fathers, they would have been drinking beer and burping and maybe telling dirty stories instead of talking about the leaves. So why try to fake it? Anyway, we get to this cabin, which is about 18 million miles from nowhere, and to my surprise, it's not a cabin at all. It's a house. A big house. "Oh my," said my mother as we pulled into the driveway. "Isn't it great?" chirped Annalise. "It's almost 100 years old, back from the time when they used to build big hunting lodges up here. It's the only one in the area still standing. Horace said he hasn't been able to get up here in some time. That's why he was glad to let us use it. He said it would be good to have someone go in and air the place out." Leave it to Annalise. This place didn't need airing out. It needed fumigating. I never saw so many spiderwebs in my life. From the sounds we heard coming from the walls, the mice seemed to have made it a population center. We found a total of 2 working light bulbs, one in the kitchen and one in the dining room, which was paneled with dark wood and had a big stone fireplace at one end. "Oh my," said my mother again. Duffy, who's allergic to about 15 different things, started to sneeze. "Isn't it charming?" asked Annalise hopefully. No one answered her. 4 hours later, we had managed to get 3 bedrooms clean enough to sleep in without getting the heebie-jeebies. One for Mom and Aunt Elise, one for Marie, and one for me and Duffy. After a supper of beans and franks, we hit the hay, which I think is what our mattresses were stuffed with. As I was drifting off, which took about 30 seconds, it occurred to me that 4 hours of housework wasn't all that much of a man thing. Something it might be useful to remember the next time Mom got one of these plans into her head. Things looked better in the morning when we went outside and found a stream where we could go wading. "Your sneakers, Duffy." Later we went back and started poking around the house, which was really enormous. That was when things started getting a little spooky. In the room next to ours, I found a message scrawled on the wall. "Beware the sentinel," it said in big black letters. When I showed Mom and Annalise, they said it was just a joke and got mad at me for frightening Marie. Marie wasn't the only one who was frightened. We decided to go out for another walk. Your lunch, Duffy. We went deep into the woods, following a faint trail that kept threatening to disappear, but never actually faded away altogether. It was a hot day, even in the deep woods, and after a while, we decided to take off our coats. When we got back, and Duffy didn't have his jacket, did they get mad at him? My mother actually had the nerve to say, "Why didn't you remind him? You know he forgets things like that." What do I look like? A walking memo pad? Anyway, I had other things on my mind, like the fact that I was convinced someone had been following us while we were in the woods. I tried to tell my mother about it, but first she said I was being ridiculous, and then she accused me of trying to sabotage the trip. So I shut up. But I was pretty nervous, especially when Mom and Aunt Elise announced that they were going into town, which was 20 miles away, to pick up some supplies, like light bulbs. "You kids will be fine on your own," said Mom cheerfully. "You can make popcorn and play Monopoly, and there's enough soda here for you to make yourself sick on." And with that, they were gone. It got dark. We played Monopoly. They didn't come back. That didn't surprise me. Since Duffy and I were both 15, they felt it was okay to leave us on our own, and Mom had warned us they might decide to have dinner at the little inn we had seen on the way up. But I would have been happier if they had been there, especially when something started scratching on the door. "What was that?" asked Marie. "What was what?" asked Duffy. "That," she said, and this time I heard it too. My stomach rolled over, and the skin at the back of my neck started to prickle. "Maybe it's the sentinel," I hissed. "Andrew," yelled Marie, "Mom told you not to say that." "She said not to try to scare you," I said. "I'm not. I'm scared. I told you I heard something following us in the woods today." Scratch, scratch. "But you said it stopped," said Duffy. "So how would it know where we are now?" "I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe it tracked us, like a bloodhound." Scratch, scratch. "Don't bloodhounds have to have something to give them a scent?" asked Marie. "Like a piece of clothing, or—" We both looked at Duffy. "Your jacket, Duffy!" Duffy turned white. "That's silly," he said after a moment. "There's something at the door," I said frantically. "Maybe it's been lurking around all day, waiting for our mothers to leave. Maybe it's been waiting for years for someone to come back here." Scratch, scratch. "I don't believe it," said Duffy. "It's just the wind moving a branch. I'll prove it." He got up and headed for the door, but he didn't open it. Instead, he peeked through the window next to it. When he turned back, his eyes looked as big as the hard-boiled eggs we had eaten for supper. "There's something out there," he hissed. "Something big." "I told you," I cried. "Oh, I knew there was something there." "Andrew, are you just doing this to scare me?" said Marie. "Because if you are—" Scratch, scratch. "Come on," I said, grabbing her by the hand. "Let's get out of here." I started to lead her up the stairs. "Not there," said Duffy. "If we go up there, we'll be trapped." "You're right," I said. "Let's go out the back way." The thought of going outside scared the daylights out of me. But at least out there, we would have somewhere to run. Inside, well, who knew what might happen if the thing found us inside? We went into the kitchen. I heard the front door open. "Let's get out of here," I hissed. We scooted out the back door. What now? I wondered, looking around frantically. "The barn," whispered Duffy. "We can hide in the barn." "Good idea," I said. Holding Marie by the hand, I led the way to the barn, but the door was held shut by a huge padlock. The wind was blowing harder, but not hard enough to hide the sound of the back door of the house opening and then slamming shut. "Quick," I whispered. "It knows we're out here. Let's sneak around the front. It will never expect us to go back into the house." Duffy and Marie followed me as I led them behind a hedge. I caught a glimpse of something heading toward the barn and swallowed nervously. It was big. Very big. "I'm scared," whispered Marie. "Shh," I hissed. "We can't let it know where we are." We slipped through the front door. We locked it, just like people always do in the movies. Though what good that would do, I couldn't figure, since if something really wanted to get at us, it would just break the window and come in. "Upstairs," I whispered. We tiptoed up the stairs. Once we were in our bedroom, I thought we were safe. Crawling over the floor, I raised my head just enough to peek out the window. My heart almost stopped. Standing in the moonlight was an enormous man-like creature. It had a scrap of cloth in its hands. It was looking around, looking for us. I saw it lift its head and sniff the wind. To my horror, it started back toward the house. "It's coming back!" I yelped, more frightened than ever. "How does it know where we are?" asked Marie. I knew how. It had Duffy's jacket. It was tracking us down, like some giant bloodhound. We huddled together in the middle of the room, trying to think of what to do. A minute later, we heard it. Scratch, scratch. None of us moved. Scratch, scratch. We stopped breathing, then jumped up in alarm at a terrible crashing sound. The door was down. We hunched back against the wall as heavy footsteps came clomping up the stairs. I wondered what our mothers would think when they got back. Would they find our bodies, or would there be nothing left of us at all? Thump, thump, thump. It was getting closer. Thump, thump, thump. It was outside the door. Knock, knock. "Don't answer," hissed Duffy. Like I said, he doesn't have the brains of a turnip. It didn't matter. The door wasn't locked. It came swinging open. In the shaft of light, I saw a huge figure. The sentinel of the woods. It had to be. I thought I was going to die. The figure stepped into the room. Its head nearly touched the ceiling. Marie squeezed against my side, tighter than a tick in a dog's ear. The huge creature sniffed the air. It turned in our direction. Its eyes seemed to glow. Moonlight glittered on its fangs. Slowly, the sentinel raised its arm. I could see Duffy's jacket dangling from its fingertips. And then it spoke. "You forgot your jacket, stupid." It threw the jacket at Duffy, turned around, and stomped down the stairs. Which is why, I suppose, no one has had to remind Duffy to remember his jacket, or his glasses, or his math book for at least a year now. After all, when you leave stuff lying around, you never can be sure just who might bring it back.
Okay, so you have just listened to the story and you have also read the script. Of course, it is too early to ask you to summarize it. But I think you have got some main ideas, and I want to demonstrate how we can summarize this story. So in the next few slides, I'm going to show you the summary of the story that you have just read, and I would also highlight the important things that that we have mentioned in this summary. So let's have a look at the sample summary of Duffy's jacket. If you just look at the first phrase, Duffy's jacket, written in inverted commas, Duffy's Jacket by Bruce Coville is a short story that takes place in a huge dusty cabin in the woods. Now, I would like you to analyze it a little to find out what kind of information is provided in this story. So let's look at this first, Duffy's Jacket. So in your summary, you must mention the title of the story. There is a crucial piece of information. Then you have the name of the author, Bruce Coville. Okay. Then you should also tell what genre is it, what kind of narrative text is it. And here we tell it's a short story. And then look at this, that takes place in a huge dusty cabin in the woods. So this is the setting of the story. I repeat, you have the title of the story, you have the author of the story, you tell which genre it is, and then you tell where the story takes place. You tell about the information about the setting. Okay. Then we say the main characters include the narrator, Andrew, and his cousin Duffy. Their two moms and Andrew's little sister, Mary. The problem that they face is that Duffy keeps forgetting things. This leads to an even bigger problem involving a strange, mysterious creature. Okay? So you would see that the main characters here are the narrator, Andrew, his cousin Duffy, two moms, and Andrew's little sister, Mary. And apart from this, we also have another character, which is mysterious creature, because this character has been talked about a lot. So this is also the main character in this story. Apart from the list of these main characters, you also have the problem. The problem that they face is that Duffy keeps forgetting things. So this is one important problem. And this important actually leads to a bigger problem, and that is that involves a mysterious creature. And so you see, in the first paragraph, you have the title, author's name, genre, setting, list of the characters or important characters, and finally the problem. So you have identified the problem here. In the second paragraph, he says the two families leave for their camping trip but have to return to get Duffy's suitcase. Once at the cabin, they spend a lot of time cleaning it up. Afterwards, they find a message on the wall that says, "Beware the sentinel." Okay? So there are various events actually. So the first event is the two families leave for their camping trip. Okay? Second, or another important event is they find a message on the wall that says, "Beware the sentinel." So you have actually picked up some main events from the story. One is that the two families leave for their camping trip. The second is that they find a message on the wall that says, "Beware the sentinel." The remaining events in the story, you can just skip them. And you should also look at some transition words here, like once at the cabin, afterwards. These are the transition words that give an order or that sequence the events. So you should be clear. So here you have event 1, event 2. Later in the day, the kids go hiking in the woods. Okay, so this is another event that takes place in the story. Duffy loses his jacket, another event, and Andrew has a strange feeling that they are being followed. Okay, so in just one sentence each, you can give the main events of the story. All right, we move on. That evening, Andrew's mom and aunt leave to get supplies, and the children are left alone. This is the next event, which makes Andrew nervous. Suddenly, they hear a scratching sound at the door, a scratching at the door. Duffy looks out the window and sees something huge. The children run to the barn and back to the house while a big creature chases them. Eventually, they find themselves cornered in the house. The sentinel comes through the door, throws Duffy his jacket and says, "You forgot your jacket, stupid." So you see here you have the summary. The main events lead to the climax, and then you have the following action, and finally you have the resolution of the problem, of the conflict. The conflict is finally resolved because the sentinel comes through the door, throws Duffy his jacket and says, "You forgot your jacket, stupid." So luckily it has a happy ending, and it's not very it's not tragic at all. The story really has lots of suspense in it, but in the end it's kind of funny, it's kind of ironic that the sentinel has not come to harm them. It has just come to give back the jacket to Duffy, and he calls him stupid, right? And then the last paragraph of the summary, we say the narrator tells us that this event had such an impact on Duffy that he hasn't forgotten anything in over a year. We discover that sometimes bad habits can cause big problems. So what are these two sentences? These are not retelling the story. This paragraph actually tells the writer's, the summary writer's point of view, and he says, the narrator tells us that this event had such an impact on Duffy that he hasn't forgotten anything in over a year. So this is an important theme of this story. We discover that sometimes bad habits can cause big problems. This is another underlying theme that we have in it. So if you just look at this, you will find that Duffy's jacket has been summarized in just few paragraphs, and in these paragraphs we have to recapture, give information regarding the title of the story, regarding the author of the story, regarding the setting of the story, the main characters, the main events, and the order in which those events take place, the conflict or the problem, and finally how it was resolved. And in the last paragraph you can also give a brief note about the theme or the underlying message of the text, along with the purpose of the author, if you want to add that, but that's really optional. Okay, so here is the summary of one of the story that I demonstrated how you should summarize it. And once you have learned these tips and techniques, in fact in the beginning you won't be able to write such a perfect summary as you have looked at, but you don't need to be discouraged. You should just keep trying. And it's important that you form such habits in which next time whenever you read a story, you read it for the purpose of summarizing it to someone, and you will see that your understanding of the story will increase. So next time, don't read any book, don't watch any movie, don't read any story until you keep it in mind. You note down the important points that will help you summarize it later on. You remember when you watch a movie, sometimes your friend or someone asks, what was it about? Sometimes you watch a movie and one of your friends asks you, what was it about? And if you have watched it carefully and if you have noted the main points, only then you will be able to retell it. Otherwise, you would simply say it was good, it was bad, it was awful. That's all. So the summary is actually based on the information that you have gathered while reading or viewing or listening to something. So if you have not taken notes, you won't be able to write your own summary. And second thing is that very often in our classes, in our schools, what we do is we simply pick out certain phrases and words and we just put them together, and we believe that now it will be a summary. That's something we should discourage. You should rewrite everything throughout, right from the beginning. If you think that you can take certain words, sentences, or phrases, then probably it will hinder your writing. The best thing is that you take notes. You can underline things, but not for the purpose of writing it the way they are written, but for the purpose of changing it or converting it into your own text. So this is really important. You should actually learn the art of writing it in your own sentences, in your own words. So if it is incorrect, you can revise it, but you should start practicing it. The sooner, the better. Okay, now I'm going to give you a practice situation like I always do, and I always emphasize that listening to the lecture, listening to the demonstration is not enough. You actually need to read and do some exercise. So for practice, what this time it is going to be an open-ended practice, and I'm not going to give you one particular story to summarize. Instead, I want you to read one story in English, and it could be a short story, it could be a novelette. If any story that you like or any story that is available, make sure that this story is at least 4 or 5 pages long so that it is easy to summarize it. If it is already just 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs, then probably it will be difficult to summarize it. So choose a short story in English, any short story that you can get hold of. Maybe you have some such short stories in the English book of your students, or maybe you can find it in any other book. So I'm going to keep it open this time. You can take any one story in English, any story of your own choice, and then keeping all the summary guidelines and the summary process points in your mind, and keeping in mind the demonstration that I gave how to write a summary, you should try to write it on a page. So if it is let's say 5 pages story, it should I think it should be about 5 paragraphs, maybe less than a page. Now very often students ask, sir, how long a summary should be? It's not easy to answer, because it depends on texts, it depends on the purpose of your summary. Summaries are written for various purposes. If you can recall, in the second slide today in this lecture we looked at why summarize, and our focus has been to understand, to comprehend, to give the gist of the story. But there could be other purposes as well. For example, sometimes a kind of summary is called an executive summary. In executive summary, you have to write down the main points of an event, so that the executives who don't have the time to look at the details of the events can take some decision based on the contents of your summary. So if your summary is going to be used for decision making, then of course you need to be more accurate, and you need to be more careful. But if it is merely for retelling, merely for narrating or recapping, then probably it's not that crucial. Anyway, so the purpose of your summary and the kind of text that you are summarizing is will really determine how long your summary should be. But normally summary should be like 1/5 of its length, 1/3 of its length. Sometimes a summary could really be very short, like in the movie clip that you watched earlier. The summary of the whole Titanic film or the summary of the whole Cinderella story was given only in 1 or 2 sentences. But I think for practice sake, it is okay to write the summary in 1 or 2 sentences, but you should also write the summary in few paragraphs, 2-3 paragraphs, so that you have both the skills handy. So with this we come to the end of lecture number 12. I would like to read out what we studied in lecture 12. So here it is the summary of lecture 12, and look at the word summary. The purpose of this summary is to recap the main points, to reinforce it. or if you have missed anything, you can go back after listening to the summary and you can look at it in detail. Alright, in lecture number 12 we learned how to summarize a story. And remember, we just learned how to summarize a story. We didn't learn how to summarize a non-fiction or how to summarize expository or argumentative text. That we will do in some other lecture in future, hopefully. We also learned today how to determine important ideas and information that are contained in a story. The important events, ideas and information. You also learned how to narrate events in a sequence, giving it in a proper order and using the transitional devices like after that, first, next, finally, in the end. These kind of transitional devices are really important when you are summarizing the content of the story. Okay, and finally, you have also learned how to retell the story in your own words. This is probably the most difficult of all the skills and sub-skills that we have discussed today. But as I told earlier, you need practicing, you shouldn't lose hope, and you need to keep on practicing. In the beginning, your first, second, third draft or first, second, third attempt might not be very good, but if you keep on insisting on the fact that you should write the story in your own, the summary in your own words, then finally one day you will become an expert in it. So with this we come to the end of lecture number 12. Hope it has been interesting listening to the video and also listening to one of the interesting short stories, and hope during the process you also learned an important skill of summarizing it. So in future, whenever you read the text, the story, you should read it with the idea that you will have to summarize it, and that would greatly enhance your reading skills as well. Thank you very much.